So anyway, wanted to jump in today and say hello and talk about sales objections, overcoming sales objections, as part 3 of our sales powwow week. If you missed the first 2 live videos, just search on this page. You'll be able to see them. We talked about the mindset of sales, super important. And then we also talked about my sales process yesterday, kind of walked you through the whole thing. So today I want to talk about objections because that's always another spot where people get hung up. They're like, well, what happens if this happens? Well, first of all, don't worry about what happens if that happens until it actually happens, because often we're worrying for a whole bunch of stuff that's never going to happen. Some of these objections that I'm going to go over, I've never actually experienced. I've been in business 8 years. But I wanted to share them with you just in case, it helps ease your mind to how you could handle potential issue. So some of the ones that I have listed, if you guys have others that you think, I'm going to leave them in the comments here. But I have, I'm not sure what size that I want to get for the wall. I don't have the wall space. Oh boy, that added up fast, or it's still too expensive. Them wondering if this is the right decision. Having buyer's remorse, having to check with their husband, or unable to finalize the sale. So let's start with the top. Let's start with, oh gosh, I don't know what size. I love that frame canvas, but I don't know what size. So we can overcome that objection far before we actually get to the sales room. That actually starts with trying to get a picture of their wall, so you know kind of what area you're decorating for by the time you get to the sales room. It's part of my workflow. I try to get that before the session even, but definitely before the sales session. I try to have them, I actually have a form in Dubsado that basically they just go around with their phone, take a picture or two, upload it onto the form, give me a little bit of information, basically just like tell me a little bit about your decor, and I just tell them to tape a blank piece of paper onto that wall and take a picture of it and upload it. So it's really, really easy. And then I have that photo, so when we get in the sales room, I can put that photo into Pro Select, and then I can put their images on that actual wall, on their actual size. So that kind of takes away that size objection there. So that's number one way to do that. Number 2 way, if you're like, wait, I don't have that sales software yet. No problem. Don't worry. Is to have a couple, if you're in their home, it's really, really easy because you can have a couple sample sizes. So you can have, even if you don't have the money to do a whole bunch of sample pieces yet, you can go to the art store and get some foam core and just cut that in different sizes. And then you take it over there and you're like, okay, this is what size a 16 by 20 would be. This is what size a 20 by 30 would be. And you can actually hang that foam core, hold it up against their wall so they can see the sizing of it. You can also point out different images on their walls, different stuff they already have on your walls. Say, that's about a 16 by 20. Have your tape roller out in case your tape measure, in case you aren't sure. And you can measure it right there for them. So that's another way to overcome that. Again, you don't need fancy sales software. Because this is all about removing your objections too to trying in-person sales. I promise it will change your life. So that's what you do for I'm not sure what size. The other way that I've overcome that objection is maybe we've gotten there and they're like, I'm really worried. I really want this, but 20 by 30 might be just a little bit too big. So if I'm pretty darn confident the 20 by 30 is going to look great in that space, I tell them, hey, why don't we go ahead and just put a 20 by 30 down on the order. We'll continue everything through. And then you go home, double check the measurement, and just let me know in the next 2 days. If you want to change the size, we can make it a little bit smaller, we can make it a little bit bigger. We can adjust the size if we need to. So that's one way to do that too. Anytime you can go ahead and finalize what you have when you're there in the sales room, even if it's a temporary finalization for the next couple days and then they can make changes, that's always good. And then the other thing that's important too is you don't want them spending too much mental capital anguishing between these two sizes. Because if they spend 40 minutes trying to decide between a 16 by 24 and a 20 by 30, then there's no way they're going to have the mental energy to be able to finalize the sale or make any other decisions. So if you're getting stuck on a certain decision, like a brown frame or a black frame, go ahead and just say, all right, we'll come back to that. I know you want this image in this finish in this size. I'll put that down. We can finalize the frame color later. Let's keep going. Move on to albums. Move on to the other things. And then you can follow up via email the next day, hey, did you give any thought to the brown or black? Or you tell them, go home, Give it some thought of the brown or black and let me know the next day or two. So that's a great way to kind of keep things moving and making sure you don't fatigue people, because again, you have about an hour. After about an hour, they're mentally done, and it's just not going to work very well. All right, so that's objection number one. Objection number two, I don't have the wall space. This does happen sometimes, especially with homes maybe that are more open now. So there's not quite as many walls. I'm finding that with my new house. Our downstairs is very open, and I have much less wall space than I had at home. Or in Pittsburgh. This is home now. So what do you do for that? Well, maybe then just the focus becomes an album. The focus becomes the other products. Focus becomes an image box. Make sure you have other products that if someone doesn't have the wall space, they still have something beautiful that you can create. And then you obviously just focus on that and move on. And, sometimes if I have a create your own collection like I do right now, where it's a 16 by 20 or larger that you purchase, then you add on 2 extra images or 2 extra products, then you save 20% on everything. If they didn't have the wall space, I would say, hey, if you order this middle album or these 2 albums, basically my middle and my high-end album, then and 2 additional items, I can still do a create your own collection for you, because basically that album takes the place of that wall piece. I just want them to order something big and beautiful, kind of like a staple piece for their order, and then I'm happy to give them that discount. All right, Deborah has a question. If people don't decide on images at the IPS, do you do? All right, we'll get there. We're going to come back down to unable to finalize. That's our last objection. All right, next objection is, holy cow, that added up fast. It's a little bit too expensive, or they're just like, you can tell they're visibly a little bit overwhelmed at the final price. That, in that case, sometimes you just need to give them a minute. And if there's 2 of them and they're kind of talking, like it's, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, and they're just kind of talking about like finances, and they're like kind of discussing, I will excuse myself to be like, hey, I need to run upstairs and grab something that I forgot. I'll be right back. And so I'll give them some space. I'll run away, leave them some room. And even if you're in their house, you could say, oh, I need to run out to the car and get something. I'll be right back. So that gives them a few minutes to talk privately. The other thing that could be happening too is, say the total adds up to $2,500. It's more than they expected to spend. And sometimes people just need some time for them to mentally, even if they really, really want it, they just need time to mentally accept that that's the price and come to grips with it and then move forward with it. But they're going to do so happily. You're not forcing them. This is where that yucky, salesy, like slimy part is not happening. You're not forcing them to make that decision. They are making it of their own free will, and they are going to be excited about it, and they're going to love it. It just takes a little bit of time for them to convince themselves that this is okay to spend the money here. For instance, when I was, it's a new house, when I was building the house, we're in the design center, and it's just like, okay, add this. It's like just watching money fly out the window. I'm just like, oh my God. And then it gets to our master shower, and the model had this beautiful like inset, just like these hexagon tiles, like inset on the wall. And it wasn't really an option there, but they're like, we think we can do it. And ended up being a little bit more than what the other option was. That would have been fine, but I really loved this look. So, in the grand scheme of things, it was actually like $2,000, which when you're building a house, it doesn't really add up to much in my monthly payment. So it's really not a big deal in the end. But at the time, I'm just like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is adding up. And I just really needed, I'm like, all right, seconds. So I kind of walked around for a second, kind of thought about it. And then I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to do it because I love it. And I can afford it. And it's not going to be a giant change. I think it changes my payment by $25 a month. That's fine. Maybe not even that much. Regardless, I just needed some time to process it. And then I was very happy to say, yes, let's do that. And I love it. And it's beautiful. And if I didn't do it, now here's where you're doing a disservice if you get uncomfortable and you just hurry up and talk or discount or convince them to do something else and don't let them go through this process. If I had not done that, every time I would have walked upstairs to my shower and looked at my shower, I would have been like, damn, I should have just done it. I should have just spent a little bit of extra money. So you don't want your clients to be looking at their artwork that they purchased from you thinking that, I should have just got that 20 by 30. Why'd I go down to 16 by 24? So again, it's not about being slimy. It's not about forcing them. Not everyone's going to make that decision, but it's about giving them the time to make that decision for themselves, because they just need time to go through it in their head and decide where they really want. They know what they want. They just need to convince themselves, or to give themselves the permission. Really, it's giving themselves the permission that it is okay to purchase this. So yeah. All right, but that was a tangent, but it was an important tangent. So we still were at that, add it up too fast, that's too expensive, give them the time. And then the other thing you can do too is you come back in, you kind of see where they stand. If they're like, God, it's a little bit more than we can spend right now, you can always offer a payment plan. I always offer payment plans. It saved many a large sale. And I don't mind. It's fine. I don't charge any extra. It is the same price. So if the order's $2,000 and they want to do the payment plan, they're still going to pay me $2,000. I just tell them we can split it up between, 3 and 6 payments. We can do monthly payments, and they just get the products at the end of the payment plan. And if they want to pay it off early, if they're like 2 months in and they call to pay it off early, then I'll, hurry up and get their products to them. I usually start to order their products when it's about halfway paid. So then I can give them to them as soon as they pay. But, yeah, that payment plan, super helpful. Are your payment plans automated? Karen, they are not. They should be. QuickBooks, I think they might actually now. I don't do payment plans very often. So for how rarely I do them, actually, no, I did just do one this summer. And for that, I just did because she wanted to pay it off as quickly as possible. So for her, I just gave her a QuickBooks invoice, sent an email, and she could just open that email and make a payment whenever she wanted. And she would just make a payment like every payday, every couple weeks. So for that, it was just easiest to do it that way. I found that's kind of the best way to do that. I used to take have a form. I think I got it on Design a Glow. It was like $25. And it was like a credit card authorization payment plan form. So they gave me 2 credit card numbers in case one like expired or didn't go through or whatever. And then I would run it on the first of the month. That worked fine. The other thing to automate it is Stripe, I believe. You can set up a payment plan. QuickBooks does not allow reoccurring payments. I don't think. QuickBooks Online, they might have changed it. I believe seeing something come through, but again, I'm doing so few payment plans that I didn't really look into it. But I think Stripe, you can set up a payment plan where it's automatically charging it every month. The key there is, and why I like to run it, is I like to make sure that it was going through. Because sometimes with the automated ones, that it might be running in the background, I might forget about it, or maybe it doesn't go through and I don't get a notice. So I just like to have my fingers on it just to make sure it's working as it should. And to keep the client updated. Hey, you only have 2 more payments. Just going to let you know I'm going to order your stuff now. Yada, yada, yada. Just keeping them in the loop. Tiffany's asking if I've ever had someone not finish paying. No, they've always paid. Knock on wood. Some wood somewhere. That's fake wood. Anyway, yeah, I've never had that issue. Like I said, I don't order anything till they've paid for half. So at that point, my cost of goods sold is well covered. And they've already paid quite a bit by that point. So they're usually going to finish. Yeah, Square allows partial payments now. Yeah, and so does QuickBooks Online. That's what I usually use. I can just do an invoice and they'll do partial payments. So yeah, so payment plan and let them think. That is our answer for that added up fast. It's a little expensive. Okay, next up is this the right decision? Which they're not going to come out and say, but I saw a quote the other day that an objection to price is always about something else. It is rarely or almost never about the actual price. An objection is usually about something else. And often one of the objections is that they aren't sure if it's the right decision. Now, the one way you get over that objection really is by meeting with them in person. And when you're meeting with them in person, you're able to tell them, this is going to look beautiful. I recommend this size. This is why I recommend this size. It anchors over the couch, or, this is a great size for this wall. Oh, you can do smaller, but you can do a collection. You're just giving them suggestions. You're like the interior decorator. And if you aren't comfortable doing interior decorator suggestions, just go Google some things about best ways to hang wall art, best ways to size wall art, and just educate yourself on that, because it's really basic stuff. You don't have to be a crazy interior designer to be able to help people with that. So just read up on that. And just being there, you're giving them the permission to order that, because there's no way they're going to give themselves a permission to order a 30 by 40 from an online gallery, because they will have no idea if it's the right decision. So they just won't do it because they're scared of making the wrong decision. And that's a big investment to make a wrong decision. So just by being there, you're helping get over that objection. And by then letting them know how you feel. If they ask you for your opinion, it's okay to give it. And I will also show them too, here's like a couple different sizes. I recommend this size. I think this looks the best. You could go here or here. But, I like this one the best. Or sometimes they'll ask me for deciding between a couple images for a wall piece. Like, well, which one do you like? I'm like, well, it's really about what you like. But if I were choosing, I love this one because yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, because there's nothing worse than when they pick that's not the one that's not your favorite image for a giant wall piece. I'm like, what? But that one. Anyway, so that's that one. All right, next up, buyer's remorse. Again, that's not going to necessarily be an objection in the sales room, but you don't want someone spending some money with you and then going home and being like, and we're always going to do that a little bit. We're always going to have that like questioning, oh gosh, what did I just do? Was that the right decision? I mean, it happens to me when I spend something, when I buy something big, just like, oh God. But how you can start to get over that is, in the sales room when you're finishing up your order and saying goodbye to them, just tell them again, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. It is going to look so beautiful. You're going to love this so much. It's going to look so great in your living room, whatever, just kind of reinforce the sale there. And then you can send a thank you note immediately after. Thank you so much for trusting me to create these images for you. I can't wait to see what these look like in your home. They're going to be stunning, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, just by doing those kind of little things like that, it kind of helps negate that buyer's remorse. Shalene felt that way, bought her 70 to 200, until you take your first picture at 200, 2.8 with that thing. And then you'd be like, wait, buyer's remorse, whatever. It's awesome. All right, next up, this is a big one. I need to check with my husband. So how you get around this is that you have education throughout the process. This is code for, holy crap, this is more than I want to spend. And I don't want to say, I don't want to spend this much because that's embarrassing to me. Or it's more than I want to spend and I can't afford it. And that's embarrassing to me. So I don't want to say that. So I'm going to blame my husband. So the key to that is making sure they know the pricing up front. Making sure you give them multiple opportunities to look through the pricing. Can it happen that people still don't look through it? Yes, it can. Should it happen very often? No, it shouldn't. If it's an outlier, it's okay. If it's happening a lot, you need to look at your processes and making sure you're really educating people and you're getting them to see your prices before they actually show up for the session, and certainly before the sales session. But ideally before you even shoot the session, so that way they have an out if there's like, holy cow, it's not what I expected. So that's I need to check with the hubby. So if that actually does happen, then one of the things you can do is be like, well, how about we, do you want to hold this order? And then I'll give you 2 days to make a change. Sometimes I'll just be like, and it depends. If they really were like gobsmacked with the prices and had no idea what was happening, then there's nothing you can say or do to get them to like commit to that sale there. And they're going to go and maybe they'll come back and maybe they won't. And it's a lesson to make sure that your education process is like you're educating them as much as possible on the pricing as you go along. I was going to say something else with that. What was it? Oh, and the other thing you can do too is I do have on my contract. I don't come out and say it all the time, but I do have it on my contract that all decision makers should be present for the ordering appointment. I used to call it a session premiere. I'm now calling it a viewing and ordering appointment because I want them to know that they're viewing and ordering their pictures. So it sets the expectations. So that they know that they should be ordering when they come. Okay, the other big objection is just being unable to finalize their order the night of. So, maybe they've just had a super crazy week. And remember that whole decision fatigue? If they had a really rough day at work and they're coming to you in the evening and they're just like, they literally can't make any more decisions. That might happen. Or if they didn't get educated throughout the process as well as they should have, that could happen. So all these kind of different things going on. Now, again, outlier. If this happens once a year, it could just be that person. I have one of my old family clients. It's a wonderful client. She always spent like $2,000. She never, ever once finalized her sale at the sales session. She just needed to see what the options were, kind of put her order together, and then think about it for a day or two. And then she would always go back to me, all right, that all sounds great, let's do it. So there are really, truly just some personalities that cannot make a big decision that quickly. And that is okay. Remember, we're not doing this high pressure. We're not pushy. We are helping our clients. There's not much you could do in that case other than help them through the thing and then follow up with it. Like help them put their order together, just like a normal sales session, and follow up with it. If you do have special things like like my Create Your Own collection, or maybe you have special collections, or you're offering like a bonus or something, you can say this is only available during the sales session. However, if you want to put a $500 deposit down towards your order, you can still take advantage of that savings, but you can make any adjustments in the next 2 days if you want. So that is really helpful maybe to kind of get them to commit a little bit, but they're not committing their full amount at that point. Karen asks, in that case, do you give them something that reminds them of what their order was? Yeah, I have a two-sided order thing. Paper, 2 sides, rip it off. They have a carbon copy. Oh my gosh, the words. So they could take that home. In the past, I would have just emailed them, followed up with an email of what we talked about and what their options were or what they wanted to decide on. So I would have done that. That would have worked well. The one thing that I never, ever, ever, ever do, ever, without money in my pocket, is give them an online gallery to go home and think about it. No. You have to pay a deposit. And I let them know. And say, I'm happy if they can't make a decision. Say they want a wall piece, but they're between like 3 images and they want to show their husband, but they definitely want that wall piece. And they've paid for their order. That's cool. I'll throw up an online gallery and they can show their husband all the images and they're going to get back to me on that wall piece. That's fine. They've paid me. I don't care. Here's your online gallery. They're still watermarked, but that's fine. If they are in the sales session and they can't make a decision and they have not given me a deposit towards anything, I am not putting up an online gallery. And I will let them know, I'm sorry, it's my policy. I can't put up an online gallery unless you have a deposit towards your order. I'm happy to take $1,000 deposit that can be used towards any product. So whatever you end up deciding to do, and then I can release an online gallery, or I could put a gallery online for you. Or, this doesn't happen often because I educate people throughout the process, like religiously. I'm like a zealot. You must know the pricing. Oh gosh, what was I going to say? Oh man, it just totally went away. I'm sorry guys, the problem being live. And mentally just like crazy. It's like you're reading my mind. Hold on, let me see what this question was. So I've covered this, but what do you do if they ask you for an online gallery so they take their time choosing? I just started talking about that. You have to watch a replay, but I'm talking about that a little bit more now. So they only get it if they get a deposit. So I'm educating them throughout the process on the pricing and this and that, and if they can't make a decision in the pricing room, they don't get an online gallery unless they're giving me a deposit. And I know what I was going to say. I will let them know, hey, if it's really not going well there, I'll say, hey, and they don't want to do a deposit, I will offer them to come back for another viewing appointment in a week or two. If they needed to check with their husband or do whatever their excuse was because they weren't prepared, I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to do that because it rarely happens to me, because my education process is like, I'm pretty on point making sure that happens throughout the process. Yes, that I think was what I was going to say. I think that's it. Those are all my objections, guys.